once again, we have a meeting of the Acton Board of Health in times of global pandemic. So I'm glad everyone is able, but I won't say glad, I appreciate everyone taking the time, volunteering their services, volunteering their time, try to help public health in town. So with that, we traditionally start with an update because it's been a few days since we've met. Start with an update from our director. The health director is what's new.
So the biggest update was Governor Baker expanded the closure of non-essential businesses until May 4th. He also gave a bit further clarification of some of the businesses that we were kind of struggling with. And one of the other things that he did was close hotels, and that is in a sense to be used if we need them. So, which I think is a good thing. And then I think like first responders can stay at them as well, but that's pretty much it for tonight.
Okay. Sorry, the agenda just disappeared. I think
Heather.
it asks, what's the, gonna learn to print the agenda. The next is, looks like an update from the Acton Nursing Service. If Heather is available, that would be very helpful.
Hi, Bill. How are you tonight?
Doing okay. I'm staying home, so I'm staying safe.
Good, good. I hope you're all staying home safely. So just a couple of updates from me. We've just been busy, increased calls through the Mass Department of Public Health with some increased case tracking and tracing based on the positives that have been added to the town, as well as the disease surveillance that's ongoing with anyone that we've been tracking who was a suspect case or who is now a contact case of anybody of either a positive case in Acton or outside of Acton. So anyone who falls into the contact case are funneled through our department. So, a lot more discussion and follow through with that. So we've increased Linda Collins' hours. She primarily does our disease tracking. She's typically about 15 to 19 hours a week, depending on the time of year. It usually goes up around flu season and goes down the rest of the time. But she's been primarily working about 32 to 40 hours a week just to help out the last 2 to 3 weeks. I also have a meeting tomorrow, a planning meeting with 3 of my per diem nurses who are going to start assisting with the projected phone calls that will be coming in after the letter that is being mailed out to town residents. We foresee that there'll be a lot of phone calls that will need to be returned, a lot of information that will have to be put out there, and as it comes in, since there's only 3 of us that can be on the phone at one time talking to someone, we'll be taking messages and then funneling those out through our per diem staff. So we'll be talking with them and planning with them tomorrow. We have a meeting in the afternoon. We did get a donation of 80 N95 masks from the Chinese language school, which was very appreciative. I know that they also donated quite a few to the public safety facility. So that's really great and thoughtful of them to think of us. Besides the N95, I think we also, as a nursing department, got about 300 of the typical surgical masks, which is great because that's helpful for anyone who would be a suspect or a positive case if they need a mask to go, let's say, to a facility. That's something that they can have in their house to put on. So that's definitely helpful. There are, let's see, I did talk to I know there's been a lot of things in the news today about the Soldiers' Home, and I know that there's been concerns at the Littleton Life Care Center. So I did reach out yesterday and I spoke with the nursing director at Life Care of Acton. And I also spoke to the executive director, Chris Foy, today. just to check in to see how things were. They don't have any positive cases. They don't have anyone that is symptomatic as of today, which is great. There's always concerns in a facility like that it's, if one person gets it, it's just going to run rampant throughout the building. So I think the social distancing and shutting down of the facility to visitors a couple of weeks ago, I think that definitely is helping. So I did want to just mention that just because of the concern of their, I think they're a partner company. I think they own both of those locations, I believe. So I just wanted to mention that. There are 6 positive cases in Acton, and I did want to just ask the board again. I know we talked about it at the last meeting, about your feelings of posting online at the board of when the town manager does his COVID-19 updates about the positive cases. I have some concerns just since we've been doing that. We are getting a lot of calls with people wanting to know addresses and resident information, what part of town they're located in. Some people pretty upset that we're not sharing that information. So I have some concerns about continuing to do that. And I just wanted to run it by the board again. I know a lot of other towns that have been coming into the same issue, that they have stopped doing it. There's a lot of the surrounding towns that have ceased, putting that information out there to residents. I know you wanted transparency, but sometimes, it's a question of, is it correct to the point of am I getting the information as quickly as maybe residents in town are hearing about neighbors, as opposed to what numbers I'm putting out. So I just wanted to throw that idea back out, and not to have to talk about it tonight, but just as a thought for maybe the next agenda to discuss. And
Thank you.
I think that's it. Sure, thank you.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to stop you, but I was going to say on that particular issue, I think we could probably offer some guidance right now. I'll offer my 2 cents, and then I'll poll the board and see what they think. But my 2 cents is, I think it answers the question of, are we trying to mitigate or otherwise not make it obvious as to how many cases we have in town. But I do think we could add to any of the posting that says this is the reported cases. So, in other words, we only know what we've been told. And 2, we can say, no further information will be shared or can be shared, or something that, politely says, don't bother calling because we're not going to tell you anything. And perhaps that might reduce the volume of folks. I'm sure it won't go to 0, but my preference anyway would be to continue to at least acknowledge we have a problem. Hopefully we will be able to have good news when the number of cases goes down. And okay, that's my 2 cents. But I see Dr. Taylor is first on my video screen. What's your opinion, Doctor?
Well, I think it is important to be transparent. People track because they want to know, are things increasing, stabilizing, decreasing. We will reach a day when the cases will be decreasing. I've been on telephone trees where they're very good at diverting you if there's something they don't want to talk to you about. And I'm wondering if you could do that on the common numbers and say that if you're calling about case identification for the reported number, this is not public information, it cannot be given out. And you can also indicate that these are reported to you from the State Department of Public Health. And, I think a lot of those calls would drop off with that message. Otherwise, it's taking a lot of staff time, and I think that's not a good idea. But I think there are ways of deflecting that. Now, I noticed on the website it said this is private information and personal identifiers. Nothing can be released. So perhaps on the town website where that's stated, along with the number of cases, that could be made bolder to save some time.
Sorry, need to unmute. Okay, thank you, Bill. Going down the list, I see, looks like next up is Dr. Jacoby.
Yeah, hi, I agree with everything that's been said. I think we need to get the word out of how many cases are in town. And I agree with Dr. Taylor that if there's some way to make it easier for the health department, nursing service to avoid answering any questions, I think that we ought to look at.
Okay. Mr. Conaby, and by the way, I found the participant thing at the bottom of my screen, and it shows that you don't have your video on. So I don't know if that's...
Yeah, I'm having a problem with that tonight.
Yeah,
No
one has their video on, except Bill, myself, and Cheryl.
Well, we're just photogenic. Sorry. Please go ahead, Mark.
I'm not photogenic. I concur. I think we should be trying to be transparent. I think it's important as we're sending the message that they're having hardships and we're asking for a lot of help with this. So it's important to provide that information. Probably the quarantine numbers would also be useful to potentially post. And last, I think the questions about the ability to post that information and explain it, probably a reference to the state website, which explains some of the reporting obligations and disclosure information would be helpful to answer people's questions. Get them to the state site so they're not calling here for that.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Michael? Mike?
Hello, Bill.
Hello,
Yeah,
Mike.
I agree with transparency with the numbers. I saw something today about, I think it was Patch, but they said Concord is hiding COVID numbers. So I think we should be as fully transparent as possible so as not to get into that situation.
Okay. And Rika?
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Bill on that because we can only provide the numbers. We cannot give the private information that
Okay.
we would not consent for.
Thank you. Joanne? Joanne, can you hear us? Uh-oh. Joanne, I see you're on, I think, it says you're on the phone, but can anyone tell if they can unmute Joanne?
I'm gonna try. Joanne?
Hey, I'm unmuted.
Excellent.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Excellent. Yeah. I would agree with what everybody said. I think it's important for transparency, and when people don't have the information, they sometimes would fear the worst. So I agree with everybody.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I add something for Heather?
Sure. Sure.
Heather, if you need volunteers, and I'm certainly willing to volunteer to handle telephone calls. Other members of the board may also be interested in that. With the standardized information to be collected, that'd be easy for a lot to do. And I know Cheryl has mentioned there are other people working in the town that are also interested, maybe in volunteering.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bill. And Heather, I'll just ask: do you have further questions for what you think the board's view on the subject is, or?
No, I thank you for the guidance. I just wanted to run it by because I know there was some questions about it a staff meeting the other day, so I just wanted to pose it again, just to see what your feelings are. But I understand why you wanted to stay transparent, and they were all good ideas that I wrote down. I like the idea of the website and directing them back to Mass Department of Public Health. That is helpful. I don't think we have a link specifically saying that piece of it, so that is a really good idea. But I appreciate it, and Dr. Bill, I appreciate your offer to help. I will be reaching out, I am sure, to more people as time goes by.
And when is the letter going out? Do you know?
I expect to hit the post office tomorrow.
And I'm wondering about weekend coverage. How will you handle calls that come in over the weekend?
So right now what we're doing is we have a nurse on call from Friday night at 5 to Monday morning at 8. And anything that's been coming through for COVID, whether it's current people in the community we're following or new cases from other, from the Mass Department of Public Health or other local boards of health, those are coming to me. So my nurses are calling me to follow up.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that's what we'll do now. We'll do after that.
All right. Well,
We'll
I'd like to
continue to do.
I'd volunteer for over the weekend coverage as well. It shouldn't all be falling just to you.
Okay, well, you guys should
Thank you. I appreciate
talk.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So at this time, I'd like to ask, are any of the members of our virtual audience have questions for either the health director or Heather, the nursing director?
I do have one person, Jill Salomon. I'll allow her to talk right now.
Great, thank you.
Jill?
Hello? Nobody there?
She's still muted.
For some reason, oh, here we go. Jill, can you hear us? She's unmuted. I don't know. We do have one more caller. Bill, you want to go to that one?
Yes, I think so.
So it's caller user number 1. Go ahead.
Hi, it's Tara from West Acton, and I support the transparency as well. And I'm wondering if there's any additional information, such as the people that have survived and recovered. If there's any information about that, I think that'll help give some people hope too. And then will you let us speak about the construction workers thing later?
So let me just, yeah, that's, I think I counted 4 questions, but maybe it's only 3 here. So I'll take them in reverse order. The construction thing is later. That's actually on the last item under the 7:30 agenda. And I'll ask if Heather can address your other questions about additional number of people that have recovered. And I apologize. I think there was one other one in the middle there.
Yeah, it was just about symptoms and, how many people are exhibiting symptoms or recovery rates. I think that helps people have faith too.
Heather, I'll just ask, is there additional information we can provide, or are we providing everything that's publicly releasable?
What's publicly releasable is what I'm putting out right now. Since we only have a handful of positive cases, there isn't really information about recovery right now because they're active. So, I mean, that's something we can definitely, look at. But Tara, I would refer you especially to the Mass Department of Public Health, where they do their updates on a daily basis. I don't know if you've seen that part of their website yet. But
no, I haven't. Is it by town? Do they do it by town?
They don't unfortunately do it by town. They do it by, they do list the total number of cases, the total number tested, the total recovered, So
Yeah.
they do list that number. So it is encouraging when you look at those numbers on a daily basis.
Okay.
Even
I will.
though, even though the deaths are rising and the cases are rising, they do update that on recovery and that people that are recovering at home. I forget how it's exactly listed, but look at the Mass Department of Public Health under coronavirus, and if you go to cases and quarantine, I think is the heading. You can get some of that information, which is encouraging.
I've also been looking at the Boston Globe has a wonderful graph that they update every day, and I've noticed the number of new cases has the curve is flattening, so that's very exciting too.
Yeah, I'll be much happier when it's going down. But anyway.
I know. Can I ask one more question about shopping markets? Because we're planning to go to the shopping market, and someone told us that Market Basket is limited, and Trader Joe's are limiting the number of people in and making markings where people can stand when they're waiting in line. And I'm hoping that the Acton shopping markets do that. But anyway, thank you for all you're doing. I'm sure that everything will be fine.
We're doing our best. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd like to move to the next.
Jill Salomon seems to have reappeared on the.
Yeah, let me see if I can unmute her one more time. Jill, can you hear us? No, doesn't seem to want to work.
Well, apologies.
Quick question for Heather.
Yes, please, Mark, go ahead.
I had a question. Did you get any more information regarding the virus reporting to the Board of Health by households under that provision of the Mass General laws today? Did you hear anything?
Did I get any information from residents? Is that your question?
No. Yes, twofold. One, yes, whether you're getting direct reporting from any residents, but did you get any clarity from the state about the requirements the household individuals were required to report to the Board of Health any disease dangerous to the public health, such as the COVID, Chapter 111, Section 109?
Right. No, I haven't heard anything regarding that. I mean, it is definitely, one of the Mass General laws. So I would hope that people would self-report. But I have not really heard of that many people that have called us so far. But I'm assuming with the letter that's going out that number of phone calls and reporting will increase.
Thank you. I hope so. Could you make a note when you do the posting that if people do report, it would be confidential medical information, so people would be more inclined to report, them to understand that you're trying to help them?
Sure. We can absolutely add that to that. I will mention it to the town manager for his update.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I apologize to board members. I should have polled members of the board. Does any members of the board or representative from the selectmen have any questions for Heather or for Cheryl at this time?
Yeah, I have one for Cheryl. Been doing some tracking in the state, and there is an Office of Local and Regional Health that was established several years ago. And there have been a number of recommendations on strengthening local public health since we have no county health departments and we have 351 local health agencies. Have you ever been contacted or been on any of their calls?
So we belong to a region 4AB, which is a region with for emergency preparedness for for our surrounding towns. I'm not sure what you're referring to, Bill.
Well, the director of this office is Ron O'Connor.
Oh yeah. We get those.
And also he's been having some calls. I think he involved local health agencies until it became a call only for first responders.
We were initially, I would say probably 2 weeks ago, we were on calls with him, on conference calls, so yes.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from members of the board? Okay, hearing none, I'd like to move to the next agenda item, which is an update from the health director on actions that they've taken to, I'll say, affirm the closure of town fields or other public spaces so that we can maintain safe distances.
So pretty quickly after our meeting, we were able to get caution tape, cones, sawhorses, placed predominantly around every playground and town fields. So NARA, we've made quite a bit of progress. We have closed all but about 10 spaces in the lower field and the upper field. We did, per David Martin's email today, we did have a bit of overflow parking due to our limited spacing. We have all the fields posted closed as well, in addition to the caution tape, or picnic tables have all been pushed aside and are all wrapped with caution tape. You know, I printed out some really large signs for NARA that were supposed to be put up today. I don't have confirmation that those were put up yet, but those basically say, talk about the social distancing protocols, and then they also, they say NARA parks closed except for the walking path. So we're making some progress on that. You know, it's been raining the last couple of days, so, or yesterday, even today. So you know, it's hard to say how effective it's been, but we will continue to monitor it.
All right, thank you, Cheryl. Questions or comments from members of the board?
Bill? I guess, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I'd say thank you. It's looking like a lot of those measures will be very helpful, and hopefully we can have a lot of folks adjust the requirements and conform so we don't have to take additional measures. I guess the comments are the reduction in parking at NARA. You may want to consider doing the same thing at the Arboretum. I don't know if it has to be exactly limited to 10. Obviously, NARA could probably hold a little bit more folks in the Arboretum. Probably some more posting. I know Cheryl says they're in the process of doing that and putting up more cones and barrels and larger closed signs. Probably would be good to post the closure notices and the reason and requests for social distancing and minimizing contacts at some of the conservation rail trail heads and the rail trail conservation land hindrances and the rail trail kiosks. And those were based on a lot of the comments some of the residents brought in, and I think which would be great. And it sounded like a lot of them wanted to volunteer to do that. And I know there were some questions about what are the list of closed facilities. It probably would be nice to put a listing on the website of all the sites that are closed, so somebody doesn't call in and have a question, is this particular field or this basketball court or something else closed, so it's, you know, explicit. And probably some of the larger fields like 2A and 27, I mean, put a sign at the entrance as people go in so they know that it's closed, rather than just putting caution tape. So those are just some of the comments, but it's great progress and very much appreciated.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Any other members? In that case,
Bill,
hello, Mike.
it's Mike. You know, I don't get the sense that people are taking this seriously, and I would actually advocate for closing everything down.
Sorry, advocate for closing, and then you dropped out there.
Closing everything down that we can.
Okay.
No,
No, don't do it.
no.
Okay. Well, I was going to suggest that actually, that if you remember, this item was on the agenda for a report from the health department, and then determination as to whether or not we wish to do anything further or just continue on the present path. So it sounds like we've opened that debate, which is fine. That was what we were intended to do. So, Mike, if it's okay with you, I'm going to say that I think you've made your proposal. I think I heard Joanne say that she'd like to offer a rebuttal. So, it's all right. I'm going to let Joanne have her rebuttal.
I don't know if rebuttal's the right word, but I think, given,
Your dissent.
the signage and enhanced barricades and whatnot at the parks and other facilities just were implemented in the past day or two. And I just, my little anecdote of walking in the Arboretum yesterday, it was, the parking lot was probably a third full, and people were certainly practicing social distancing, and there were, signs all over, cautioning people not to touch anything, don't sit down. So I beg to differ, Mike, that I think people are taking this seriously. So, and given the mental health benefits of being able to walk outside and being in the woods and getting fresh air and all the things that we talked about at our last meeting, I would strongly oppose closing everything down.
Okay, thank you, Joanne. Other comments from the members?
Yes, I would disagree about shutting things down. I am out on a rail trail practically every day, and people are definitely following social distancing. As you go down, heading north, somebody else coming south, people move to the extreme edges of the trail. And from all I can see, those things are being followed. Additionally, if you come up 111 and look at the sign on Charter Road, the big sign there, the electronic flashing sign says, "Get out and exercise." I mean, if we limit all the places that people can exercise, then I think we're doing the town a disfavor.
Okay. Other comments?
Yeah, I
Can I
think,
make,
I think they should be stay open.
thank you, Mike, were you going to say you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that people are really taking this seriously. I go out very infrequently, and I see people like within the 6 foot limit, and I think anything we can do to help the town would be good. And I think we're in like exponential growth with this disease. So anything we can do to prevent expansion, I think it would be good.
Okay, thank you. I guess I would just make an obvious comment, but if you live in the same household, you're allowed to walk within 6 feet of each other. So just saying it. Sometimes for me, it's difficult to segregate. Are these members of the household and they're just slightly spread out, or are they people that are not practicing the correct social distancing? Unless I know them personally, it's difficult for me to know the distinction. But having said that,
Bill, can I remark? For those that are ill, home isolation is recommended. That means they're confined to a single room in the home, and they should not be interacting with family members in that situation. The food can be left at their door.
Bill, I think we should also add that if they're in quarantine, they also should not be leaving to go outside and get exercise in public places.
That is true. They're a stay at home.
Correct. I think one of the things that we're seeing is a trend, and this is what Mike is talking about. The Audubon and the Bird Park and a number of the trustees, they've all closed their facilities. You've seen the state on the parks has started instituting some controls for limiting parking and access in hopes that people will observe some of these guidelines and not have large groups. That people stay at home close close to home for this outside of exercise. They don't travel all around the state. So I think stepwise, we're trying to do the right thing. Let's see how the compliance goes this weekend. Certainly get as much information and to try to post it so people are aware of it. We'll monitor it. Hopefully a few won't ruin it for most of us. But unfortunately, based on the conditions, one person can spread it to others and it can really escalate as we're seeing. Well, I guess the comments of what should we do? And I think stay home advisory from DPH says stay home and stay inside as much as possible and to limit your interactions. Going to public places for that exercise is not limiting your interaction, which is what I think Mike is getting to. So there's a little inconsistency in the advisory and the concept of get outside, get fresh air, and get some exercise locally, or avoiding other people is more the point rather than getting out as a snow day, vacation day, and a group outing. What we're trying to say is minimize that, minimize the time in those areas for everyone's benefit, and share those limited resources so hopefully we can maintain them and avoid spreading the virus.
Okay, thank you, Mark. By the way, I guess I would offer, and don't know how other people feel about it, but you know, I'm okay with putting an oblique threat on notices that say if social distancing is not observed, the town will be forced to close these facilities or something along those lines.
We already did that.
Did they? Okay.
They did
I'll
it
see.
this
I'm
week.
not out.
Can I add to what Mark just said?
Oh, sorry. Please go ahead, Mark.
I said that the state has already indicated that if was overcrowding or groups in these areas, they would be closing them. They've closed some public beach areas prophylactically, and they've also gone and said that if there's overcrowding, and other states have done this as well, they've closed the facilities. So I think it really is the point, and that was the discussion point we had at the beginning of the week. If people are not going to obey this, it's not going to take many to spread the virus exponentially, then that unfortunately requires a public health response of closure. And I think what we're seeing is try to limit it, try to educate folks, and try to encourage compliance. But unfortunately, if it comes to that point, it may be a requirement to close some of those areas and ones where there would be a lot of proximity and people gathering.
Can I add to that?
Of course.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that sometimes, like, people who are asymptomatic, so they might be having the virus, but they do not show any signs or symptoms. If they are out, and they might transmit the infection to others. So,
Very true. I think that's one of our biggest concerns is people that aren't showing symptoms and that yet they're still infectious or contagious.
yeah.
Well, so I'll just to try to provide some closure. Are there any other comments from members of the board? Then what I'd offer is, I mean, I've heard a variety of opinions, and Mike, you're certainly within your privileges to make a motion to order the closure of the trails, and we can have a recorded vote. It sounds like the board's consensus is we'd like to monitor and watch at the moment, but I don't want to in any way, suppress your rights as a member. So, sort of up to you at this point.
Thanks, Bill. I'd actually like to take a recorded vote on this.
Okay. So you're making a motion. Well, I'm sorry. I'll let you state the motion.
I'd make a motion to close the recreation facilities, including rail trails.
Okay. I'll ask, is there a second? In that case, I do not hear a second to your motion. I'll ask again, is there a second? Mike, I don't hear a second, so I'm gonna say your motion fails.
That's fine.
Bill, I guess what I would say is, I think it's a little premature, and I think Mike makes a great point. He's saying the recreation areas, and I guess I would want to be clarifying that. That would be like Nara Park. It would not be conservation lands, but it would be the rail trail and Nara, and what else?
Are you asking Mike?
Correct.
Okay.
What are the options?
So Mark was just saying that we all agree, I think, that the field areas and so forth should be closed. Mark was saying, could you enumerate what it is in addition to those you think should be closed? And I heard you say the rail trail, and I think you also said the conservation trails. I don't remember specifically, but I think that's what Mark's question is what would it be in addition to what we're already doing?
Yeah, what prohibitions do we have right now? I think there are none, right?
No, that's not true. The fields, the playgrounds, fields. Actually, Cheryl can probably run down the list, but I think it's in our minutes actually. But areas like playgrounds, play fields, those have been locked, as Cheryl mentioned. They've been barricaded. So it's probably the remaining things are the rail trail, the hiking trails, the conservation trails. The walking trail around Nara is still open. Cheryl, could you amplify a little bit as to what's open, what's closed?
Yeah, so I don't have the list in front of me, but every town field, so that would be, and plus the skate park. So we have the skate park, we have Veterans Field, we have Gardner Field, we have Jones Field, the Nara Fields, Robbins Mill, trying to think of some others, but all of our town playing fields are closed, including the schools, and then every playground is closed. Every playground is sectioned off with closed signs, as well as the town fields. So really, the only thing that we have open now is the walking path around Nara and the rail trails and conservation area.
Thank you, Cheryl. I think that getting a complete list out, as we talked about before, would be very helpful on the website. But I guess my question to Mike was, there are 3 areas open. You've got the walking paths at Nara, the rail trail, and conservation. And I think what I heard a consensus is that if social distancing and small groups are there, we may have a sufficient compliance. But as I heard you indicate, if we don't have compliance and we do have a public health risk, the next step would be to order that closure. And probably the areas with the greatest potential for congregation interaction would be Nara, then the rail trail, and then the conservation lands, which are the most remote. So I would suggest that Mike makes a good point. Hopefully we can evaluate things this weekend with the good weather, and then presumably at a meeting on Monday we can get an update, determine what the next course of action would be.
Okay. Thank you, Mark.
May I make a comment, Bill?
Sure. Go ahead, Mr. Martin.
So I just want to say that, first of all, I'm in the conservation lands or Nara the other day. Every single day I go for a walk. In my experience, people are definitely taking this seriously. I have not run into a single instance of anybody violating the restrictions that have been placed on things. So when I was at Nara yesterday, nobody was climbing on anything or sitting on anything. Absolutely zero people were. All but 2 people were on the walking path. The 2 people that were off the walking path appeared to be, well, they were just walking as well, but they were walking on the grass. And they appeared to be together, but practicing social distancing between themselves, and that they were walking 10 feet apart. Everybody is politely making space for people to get by and to leave enough spacing. On the rail trail, it's even easier to provide the spacing because the trail itself is so wide. Again, everybody was making room for everyone else, and getting over to the far edges of the trail when passing. So the only people that are together are the household groups, which you can usually tell that sometimes on the weekends there are kids that yesterday when I went, the biggest group I saw was of 3 people, but there are no groups of friends or anything that are walking together or that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
I guess I would say that has not been any indication, and indeed pictures were sent to the department documenting significant numbers of non-compliance of that. Hopefully it's getting better, but unfortunately that isn't always the case. That's just been the anecdotal times that I've been in some of those areas. I hope that you're correct, but unfortunately I've seen cases and have sent pictures showing that is not always the case. So I think we do need to monitor it, and hopefully we don't have to take that action. It's certainly nothing any of us want to do, but we don't like anything about this whole situation.
Sure. Mark, do you know how long ago those things were? Because I too am aware, I would say 10 days ago, of people playing ball sports, that kind of thing. But I have not seen that in about 10 days.
Last weekend and earlier this week.
Okay.
So at this point, let me ask again if there's any comments from members of the board. If not, I'd like to ask if there's comments from members of the public. Shirley, you want to see if there's anyone online?
I have 2 people. Stephen Long is going to be first. Stephen, you're all set.
Hi, folks. Thanks again for your time. It says you're muted by host. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
To board. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay, great. I sent a lengthy email to the board and provided some thoughts and some resources and some clarification about what's happening at the state level. The governor's order does allow local folks to have wildlife sanctuaries, hiking trails, parks open if they enforce proper social distancing measures. And so I think that answers the question about the state. And just a clarification, state beaches are still open to local folks. The only thing that the Department of Conservation and Recreation closed is the parking areas. So the important thing to keep in mind is local access. One thing I fear is that if we close our conservation lands and neighboring towns don't, people who, like me, who like getting outside will venture forth to other towns, even though we're not supposed to. And I have I'm out every day on conservation lands, and I've seen people behaving very well. There's some really good common sense guidelines from the American Hiking Association, from the Outdoors Alliance, and also from the Mass Land Trust Coalition. I run a group in Acton called the Acton Men's Outdoors Club, and we have, I think, about 50 or 70 members. I'm sure we'd be willing to help the town put up signs at the trailheads about safe trail usage. There's a fantastic infographic from the Outdoors Alliance that provides some really good guidance for folks. And I'm also slightly concerned that this is the high season for stewardship. And if we don't keep on top of things like mustard garlic, we'll have a problem. And, I just think about the Board of Health, thinking about people holistically. And there's a lot of physical and mental health benefits to getting out on the lands. So I think there are a lot of ways to do this safely. And I think there's some really good guidance out there. And I think I have a really good core of people that would be willing to help volunteer and get the signage up. So Cheryl, please consider us at your disposal. We have a lot of people who care about the trails, who like using them, and can help put up signage if you need some helpers. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, Cheryl?
One more, call-in user number 1.
Hello, Tara.
Hi, it's Tara from West Acton, and I agree with everything that Steve said, and he almost said everything I was going to say, except for that if you close them, then there'll be no presence. And if you keep them open and encourage the stewards and anybody that's concerned, like the person that was offering to make calls, to go down to the trails and sit and interview people. Hi, how are you? Are you aware that there's a pandemic? Are you living together? If not, you should. I hope you should stay, 10 feet apart. And so if we just close them, everybody will just do it anyways, or else walk on the street where it's not safe. And so I hope that you don't close them, and give us a chance and put more signs up and help the volunteers to get the word out and do some training. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. I'm sure everyone recognizes there is absolutely no joy in this board in having to take any of the actions that we do. And we can never be sure that any of the actions we take are in fact having the desired effect. That's the joy of public health. You do the best you can, you hope that what you did was right. If then nothing happens, that's actually the best case. So, yeah, believe me, it's not anything that anyone on this board wants to have to do. Okay, I'd like to move to the next agenda item, which is also equally thorny, but it has to do with construction. And at the last 2 meetings ago, I believe, we did a motion regarding half policy, half order between how we would address construction in town. Since then, the state has provided some clarification as to what the rules are regarding construction. I'd like to propose to the board, and what my intention was for tonight is basically, I'll call it whatever we did 2 meetings ago, we're going to replace that with what we do tonight. So we're going to provide new guidance or new policy that will replace what we did 2 meetings ago based on updates from the state. And so that would be my intention, if that's acceptable to members of the board. And I believe Mr. Conaby tried to write something that he thought we could use as a basis for discussion or possible promulgation regarding construction. So
Yes.
it's
Let me just speak to that for a second. Cheryl had some questions about it, and she was swamped, as we expect. So I tried to just summarize the comments from the last meeting and some of her input based on some of the new information from the state to make it more clear. And I think we certainly could take more affirmative steps if we wish to. But I think, again, incrementally doing things, trying to provide a safe situation would be the prudent course. And so I guess my question is, was that document distributed so it'd be easier to have the discussion?
Yes, actually, it's on the DocuShare on the town website. So this, I believe, oh shoot, I've got
That's it.
overlapping.
That's the right one.
Okay.
Mark, I would like to ask straight away, number 1, what construction activities are non-essential?
Not a simple answer, and I'll answer it the best way I can. This, according to Governor Baker yesterday during his press conference, and according to the information that's been posted, the definition of essential and non-essential really deals with whether they're necessary to the public and for specific purposes. We certainly want to encourage those. He said that the state order and information is based on the federal definition of essential services. So, essential construction activities, which is very broad from what everyone is saying. There's obviously a lot of discussion, a lot of people that are quite concerned about what is allowed, what is not allowed, whether it's essential, non-essential. Should we be doing it? Is it safe for the workers, for the inspectors, the town employees, the community? It's a balancing between what is believed to be an essential public purpose and the balancing of the risk for the spread based on context. So the short answer to your question is there's new definition which came out yesterday of what are specifically authorized essential construction activities. And I think it's much more helpful because that is much more limited. We certainly do want to allow essential construction activities such as building emergency shelters, field hospitals, support and activities for the medical community. Those are the type of things, as well as our local community to have things like habitability. You need your water heater, or you have a down power line for utilities, for water. All those things. And I think that's what the real purpose is. But as it gets broader, it becomes much more challenging. So the short answer to your question is the authorized essential construction activities are those delineated by the governor's order as was specifically clarified yesterday.
So, construction of new housing, is that non-essential?
That construction of new housing is, at least to my read of the guidance, is allowed.
That's where we start going down the path of where you have new construction, where you have people entering this new construction, and is it safe? Is it appropriate? Now the question is, should the town follow the governor's order? Can they provide a different set of guidance and requirements? Certainly, the city of Boston, Cambridge, and Somerville have done so. And at the end of his news conference and press briefing yesterday, Governor Baker said that we can adopt the state regulations, we can ask for help, or we can do something else. And if you want to do something, you can. Quote, if you don't see projects in your community to be the ones that you believe you can enforce and oversee successfully around the guidelines that they have put forth with respect to what is a safe site should look like, you should have the ability to prohibit that project from going forward. So that's a little different from what has been promulgated and from some of the other documents, but that's the governor's latest order.
So the guidance from the state, just to fill in around that, one of the questions is if the governor's order deems something essential, can a city or town say that it's not essential and in some way prohibit it? The guidance says no. If the governor has deemed it essential, it's not able to be deemed otherwise by a city or town. However, along with what Mark has said, that doesn't mean, for instance, essential businesses, and it references construction specifically, have to follow the safe work practices, social distancing, hand washing, so forth. So that's something that the town can certainly interpret and enforce is, are they providing safe work practices? My suggestion, and actually I think a lot of what Mark's order is directed toward, but I was going to let Mark speak to his order, but it to me reads is exactly that. We're saying, we want the construction sites in town. We're not going to prohibit them. We're not going to prohibit them, but we are going to say that they need to follow the safe work practices for a time of pandemic. And
Bill, I guess what I would say is we're adopting the state requirements with a couple of things, such as making sure that all of the safety precautions must be followed, and saying, of course, what Governor Baker said, that if the procedures are not able to be followed, not safe, they can't operate. And that's certainly something within the purview of the Board of Health, and it's allowed by state law. So and nobody would really want that. So if they want to fight it after the fact, I think that that's fine. But the point is, if it's not safe, you have to close the site.
Right, until they become safe. So, so given that, we could go through your order, Mark, but I think you've sort of just described it, which is, they need to have a safe, consistent with the state's guidance. They need to have a safe work site. If they're not, then they need to stop. And I think you included some policy for the town, such as making sure our inspectors are safe, that they're allowed to have safe distances when they visit sites. They can decline or defer inspections if they feel it's necessary for safety reasons, like that. So,
Yeah. I guess I wouldn't say it's my order, it's the governor's order. It's being incorporated in a draft for the board to decide. My intention was to try to direct the conversation to try to expedite it and to take the load off Cheryl.
okay, very much appreciated. So,
But I believe the town inspectors aren't going to be necessarily available to do inspections unless they're emergency kind of situations. Is that true, Cheryl?
Currently, our inspectors are inspecting outside and unoccupied buildings only.
The concern, Bill, that was had is that if you have general construction sites, the inspectors had to go in, they would have to have all the PPE to do so. And that would be taking it away from emergency first responders. So that's why I think the policy is that if they need to defer or postpone it, they can. And I think that's prudent policy.
so Mark, your draft, which, like I say, appreciate your preparing, is pretty extensive, and I'm not sure. Let me ask: have the members had a chance to read this? And
I'm just going to point out, it's cut and pasted. All of 2, 3, and 4 are identical to what was originally ordered. And section 2 is cut and pasted generally from the state order. So it's not like it's all new or something else.
Okay. I was going to ask.
I've been able to read that. Cheryl sent that out.
Section 1 is the new one to help clarify things.
Okay. Well, let me just ask members specifically. I'll work. Joanne, have you had a chance to read it?
I did. And I guess the only question I have is, who determines if the work site is engaging in safe guidelines and procedures? Is it just, somebody walking by would, say, hey, there's a group of people, or is it, do the workers, complain, or, how is this enforced essentially?
I don't know that I have a crisp answer to that. Typically, for most things in town, it's if workers complain, certainly to the town. That's one thing that would trigger an
Just been there for a second.
I beg your pardon, Mark?
If they're permitted construction activities, the licensed construction supervisor is the one responsible for the site and for maintaining the safety and compliance with all the conditions of the permit. So that's a short answer to your question. And then the town inspector would contacting them and inspecting the site when they go to make sure they're also in compliance.
Okay, I'm not sure that was the question you were asking, Joanne, but let me ask, did you get the answer you were looking for, or would you like to?
Sort of. I'm not familiar with how often our inspectional staff goes to all these sites they visit every day, or is it just when they need to do an inspection? That's all.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess it's not every day, for sure. But
If I can interject, Joanne, I would have to say that all the people that you questioned, I would have said all of the above. We get complaints from residents, we get complaints from workers, and we can visualize our own concerns. So I think we'll be getting notifications from all three.
Okay.
Mike, comments, thoughts? Have you had a chance to read the draft?
I have, yes. I mean, my view on this is there's nothing terribly controversial about it, and it seems common sense to me. So, yeah, I'm in support of this.
Okay, Dr. Taylor?
Yes, I am also. Although I was a little confused. On one page, it talks about all these details, and then on the back side is talk about an emergency health policy that seems like most construction sites aren't going to be able to meet it. Number 3, for example. The Board of Health strongly recommends that all construction be limited to only essential or emergency activities to support public, life-sustaining, and habitability work.
That's a recommends. It's not an order. It's an order on the front page. It's recommendations on the back page.
It looks like health policy.
Right. It's policy, recommendations, guidance.
Okay. Yeah, I think it sounds a lot worse than it is. But in spirit, I'm not, I think that's fine. But I think we ought to change some of the language.
Okay. Do you have any suggested edits?
No. We've already spent plenty of time on this, on the conservation land, and
Well, okay. So here's my dilemma. We should take some action. It's on the agenda. We have a draft prepared. We should either take another stab at editing the draft and presenting the drafts for discussion, or either move this or don't move it for tonight. What I'm sensing is that there's enough of thought that it's worth putting this in place, and we can revise the language going forward, since we do seem to meet fairly frequently if it turns out that something was overly restrictive or not in concert with state law. However, that's not something I'm trying to advocate for. I'm just offering it as a possibility. So let me just, we have a few other folks to hear from. Rika, do you have a thought you'd like to share?
I agree with what has been said so far.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Jacoby?
Yes, I agree. I just have a couple of questions. Section 2B, it says that nobody should work unless they're able to certify no contact with individuals. How do you certify that?
So I can tell you that, as Mark says, this is cut and paste. I'll tell you how they do it at my work. They say, you don't come in unless you can affirmatively state that you haven't been in contact with someone that you know has COVID-19.
But I think when you say certified, don't you mean some sort of a document?
No, they mean self-certify and by, you so state.
Okay. Just a couple of other things. In H, you say they should wear personal protective equipment. If hospitals can't get that stuff, I'm not sure how these people will. One other thing, the next to last sentence on that page at the bottom, it's not clear what is said there. It says the Acton Board of Health or the designee is authorized to amend or modify this order provided as it in more stringent. I don't think that's right. I'm not sure what that means.
provided it is more stringent and protective of the public health. In other
That's
words,
not
it's saying it's allowing the health.
That's not,
Excuse me?
that's not what it says.
No, I agree. It's not what it says. You're correct. It doesn't parse correctly, but I'm reasonably sure that was the intent. It's
Well, our regulations are not allowed to be more stringent than the state, is that correct?
no, not exactly. It says that we can't deem something to be non-essential if the state says it's essential. And that's, I think, where Mark is trying to make a distinction, which is, however, essential businesses have to operate using the safe work practices, safe pandemic public health practices, and we can make specific requirements for safe work practices among essential businesses. And Mark is just providing in this paragraph, I believe, I'll obviously let Mark speak to it, but he's saying if a Board of Health member sees something, or health staff sees something that's just not right, they can make a determination that needs to be fixed. As what they can't do is release or relax a restriction. That's part of the safe work practices.
Okay, just as I don't disagree, I just wanted some clarification. Thank you.
The requirements that are posted in that order are from the state. They're not ours. We're just adopting them.
Yeah, I think number 4 might
Yeah.
you probably added.
4 is, you're right, 4 is not. 3 is just stating you have to maintain where they can close it. So you're just providing that authority to the inspectors to be able to make sure it's safe. As they can do at any site, anytime.
So here's a suggestion for the board. I would suggest that we go ahead and adopt these. I think it provides at least affirmation that the town is requiring that practices at construction sites be mindful of public health, and it gives the building department and the health department the tools to go enforce that if they need to, in addition to tools they already have. And if we find out that we've created an injustice or incorrect circumstances, we can certainly amend it within a very short period of time. I ask if that sounds acceptable to the members, then probably a motion to approve with the correction in Article 4 as we've discussed.
Hey, Bill, this is Mike. I'd like to make that motion, but I see we have one public comment.
Okay, Mike, so typically, and again, no problem, but what I typically do is wait for there to be a motion, because then the person in public comment can comment on the actual motion, not a potential motion.
Okay, then so moved, adopted.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Very good. Thank you, Joanne. I was actually expecting Mark since he wrote it, but
I preferred someone else to do it because it's really supposed to be a board action. I only did it as an accommodation to help.
okay, we do appreciate that. Thank you. Motion is made and seconded. This time, first I'm going to ask for comments by members of the board. Okay, hearing none, is there someone in the audience that would like to speak, Cheryl?
Call-in user number 1. Go ahead.
Hi, it's Sarah from West Acton. And first of all, I'd like to say that the governor cannot make laws, and so he cannot limit home rule powers under the municipality. And so the municipality can enact things that are more stricter for the public health, as he actually confirmed in one of his orders. And that means, like Somerville and Boston can ban construction. I'd also like to make sure that you know that Jamie Eldridge is proposing a statewide construction ban, and that the building trades that council that represents 75,000 building, people working in the construction industry have asked that we deem emergency to only be, and I've given you the list, emergency utility, road, or building work, which is gas leaks, water leaks, and sinkholes, new utility construction connections to occupied buildings, mandated building or utility work, work at public health facilities, and things like that. It does not include swimming pools and housing construction, for-profit housing construction. In fact, it even limits the bill that Jamie's putting forth limits the multi-family housing as well. So I urge you to rethink this and take a moment to take a breath, find out what Jamie thinks, and we put forth, you have it on DocuShare, but I don't think that it's been put forth for comment other than that. But I do urge you to rethink this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other comment, Cheryl?
No.
Very good. In that case, then I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. Very good. I think, and I also vote aye. So I believe that makes it unanimous. Let me ask, is there any nay votes? Okay. Hearing none, I'll say it passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving to the next item. I apologize. Would you mind putting the agenda back up again?
It's
I
the
think we're
minutes.
into the
It's the
minutes.
minutes.
Very good. So could we please turn our attention to the minutes of March 30th? At this point, I'll just say I have no comments. They look fine to me. Does any members have comments on the minutes? Anyone? Hearing none, are there any comments from members of the public? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Bill. Is there a second?
Second.
Very good. Motion made and seconded by Joanne. All those in favor of accepting the minutes of March 30th, please say aye.
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 And I also vote aye. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, at this point, I believe we reached the end of our agenda. Is there any other items of concern, questions, issues? I'll ask if there are members of the board or the select board wish to make any comments, questions, concerns.
Yes, I would like to ask if any others are interested in handling some follow-up calls of persons in Acton who are calling and reporting illness.
I would certainly be willing to help, Bill.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to this weekend. I apologize, but I'm going to be conflicted.
I hope you're not leaving the state, Bill.
You need my mobility permit.
All right, thank you.
I would have offered, but I'm so busy with online teaching. So that's why I'm not finding any time.
I understand that.
I have never taught online, so it's all new for me. So, but otherwise, I would have definitely offered.
Bill, I can help during the weekend.
Okay, Joanne, thank you.
So one thing I forgot to mention in my update was we put out a call for MRC volunteers, and we're getting inundated, which is a good thing. And I have indicated to Heather that some are actually nurses, that some have experience in contact tracing. So she has those people at her disposal too, so which is good.
Excellent. Very well, if we've reached the end of our agenda, I think we've got another meeting scheduled for Monday. Probably wise for us to plan on having that meeting, but if this meeting is concluded, that would require a motion to adjourn.
Bill, before we adjourn, could we put on the agenda for Monday night, not only the director's update, nursing service update, but also just an update on the fields and any of the other issues that come up, and then see how the weekend went. And everything keeps changing by the day. So I guess there might even be unanticipated business, but obviously be related to this. And last question is, Cheryl, do we have any other typical Board of Health business that we need to get to anytime soon?
No, we have no septic variances. No, I think we're good.
I guess just people who are going to be in the woods, we should probably continue with the tick information and continue on with Central Middlesex. We don't need any other type of public health issues.
Yeah, it's been difficult for us to do anything other than this for the last couple weeks, but I'm sure hopefully things will calm down soon and we'll have time to start focusing on the typical things. But they're hopefully, just keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah. No, I was not trying to add to it. I'm saying if
Yeah.
we need to address those, let us know. But let's focus on the most important, please.
Agreed. Thank you.
Okay.
Bill?
Hello, I'm sorry. Somebody wish to speak?
I think you were looking for a motion to adjourn. So I would make the motion.
Very good. Thank you, Mark. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Very good. Dr. Bill? Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
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 Mike?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Very good. I'm also aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Do very much appreciate your taking your evenings and now your weekends to support our response. Thank you.